The last auction theme marketplace was loud, crowded, and full of strange creatures. Giant lamps hung from the metal ceiling, lighting up the auction stage in the center. Many species gathered here, tall lizard-like beings, short hairy traders, and even cold-eyed humans. But today's auction was almost over. The auctioneer, a fat alien with green skin and sharp teeth, shouted loudly, "Last offer. The final lot." He pointed towards the two small figures standing behind him. Two alien girls stood close to each other. They were thin, shaking, and covered in dirty cloth. Their skin was pale, with a soft glowing pattern that shimmered faintly. One had long silver hair, while the other had short pink hair tied behind her ears. Both had large, frightened eyes. "Worthless," someone shouted from the crowd. "They look broken," another added. Laughter filled the room. The auctioneer tried again, forcing a smile. "These rare hybrids are still young. You can train them. Starting bid, 5,000 credits." No one raised a hand. The girls looked down, their hands tightly holding each other. They had already seen others sold before them, some violently dragged away by cruel owners. But now, even after being offered so cheap, nobody wanted them. 3,000 credits. The auctioneer lowered the price. "Silence, double quotes, 1,000, someone take them." He shouted, wiping sweat from his forehead. A tall man watched quietly from the shadows. He was human, wearing a long black coat. His name was Marcus. He had seen many auctions before, but something about these girls was different. Not their looks, but their eyes. Even through fear, their eyes carried a deep sadness, a pain, but also a small spark of life. They had not given up. No one. The auctioneer looked desperate now. "Then take them for free." "Anyone." More laughter. A few aliens threw small objects at the girls. One of the girls flinched as a stone hit her leg, but she stayed standing. Her sister pulled her close, whispering softly, "Filthy hybrids." An alien merchant sneered. "They're not worth feeding." Marcus stepped forward. Slowly, the crowd grew silent as they noticed him. Humans rarely bought slaves here, and when they did, it was usually for special reasons. "I'll take them," Marcus said softly but firmly. The auctioneer blinked in surprise. "Both of them?" "Yes." "For free?" "Yes." The auctioneer smiled awkwardly. Of course, sir. They are yours." Some people in the crowd began whispering, "That human is crazy. Why waste ship space on trash? Maybe he likes broken toys." Marcus ignored them. He walked up the stage slowly. The two girls looked up at him with wide eyes. They were scared. He knelt down to their level and spoke gently. "You don't have to be afraid," he said. "You're safe now." The girls said nothing, but the one with silver hair nodded slightly. Marcus stood up. "Let's go." He led them off the stage. As they walked through the crowd, the mocking voices continued, but Marcus stayed calm. The girls followed close behind him, looking around nervously. Outside, the cold wind of the spaceport blew through the metal streets. Ships of all sizes stood docked, ready to leave. Marcus guided them toward his small transport ship. As they entered, the girls looked around with wide eyes. It was warm, clean, and smelled nothing like the dirty auction hall. "Sit here," Marcus said, pointing to the small couch. "I'll get you food." The girls sat quietly. Their hands still held each other tightly. Marcus returned with warm bread and soup. He placed the tray on the table in front of them. "Eat," he encouraged. The girl with pink hair whispered first. Her voice was soft and shaky. Why did you take us?" Marcus smiled gently. "Because I saw something others didn't." The silver-haired girl spoke next. We have nothing. We're broken." "No," Marcus said softly. "You're treasures. And now, you are safe." The girls stared at him. Tears filled their eyes, but they slowly began eating. The warm food gave them a little comfort. As Marcus watched them, he felt a strange feeling in his chest. This was not just about saving them. There was something more, something hidden inside these two girls, a mystery that he had yet to discover. The engines of the ship hummed softly as they lifted off the spaceport, leaving the dark marketplace behind. Far away, in the shadows of a nearby building, a pair of glowing eyes watched Marcus's ship disappear into the night sky. Someone had noticed. The Journey Home stars blinked outside the wide glass window as Marcus's ship cut through deep space. Inside, everything was quiet except for the soft hum of engines and the faint breathing of two small passengers sitting on the couch. The girls had barely eaten half the food. They held each other tightly, as if afraid that any sudden move would bring pain again. Marcus sat across from them, studying their faces carefully. He didn't want to scare them, but he needed to know more. "My name is Marcus," he said gently. "What are your names?" The silver-haired girl hesitated, but finally whispered Lyra. The pink-haired girl followed. I am Zaya." Beautiful names, Marcus thought. He nodded. "Lyra, Zaya, you don't need to be afraid here. No one will hurt you." The girls glanced at each other but stayed silent. Marcus stood up and walked to the control panel. He checked the navigation several hours to reach his home station. But something inside him stayed uneasy. The way they looked, those glowing symbols on their skin. It was not normal. "Where are you from?" he asked softly, without turning. Zay's voice trembled. We don't know anymore. Our family sold us," Lyra added, her voice hollow, as if she had spoken these words too many times. Sold by their own family. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The slave trade across galaxies was brutal. Hybrid girls like them, part alien, part ancient experimental bloodlines, were often captured for illegal purposes. But these two, they were very different then. Something strange happened. The lights inside the ship flickered for a moment. A small blue spark floated around Zaya's fingertips. She gasped and quickly hid her hands under the cloth. Marcus froze but kept his voice calm. "Are you hurt?" Zaya shook her head. I'm sorry." "Don't be," Marcus said softly, walking back toward them. "Can you show me?" Zaya hesitated, but slowly raised her hand. Faint blue sparks jumped between her fingers like tiny stars. Her eyes watered. "I can't control it." Marcus watched carefully. It wasn't artificial technology. It was biological. Energy, pure and raw. "Something very rare," Lyra whispered. "They called us broken because of this. But we were born like this." "Did someone test you?" Marcus asked. Zaya nodded. "Many times." Suddenly, the ship's alarm beeped. Red lights blinked on the screen. Marcus rushed to the control panel. Something was following them. An unknown ship had locked on their trail. "Stay here," Marcus ordered gently but firmly. "Don't be afraid." He pulled a small blaster from his belt and quickly locked the doors behind him as he entered the cockpit. The scanner showed a small pirate vessel gaining speed. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Pirates don't follow small cargo ships unless they know something valuable is inside. Someone must have seen him at the auction. The pirate ship sent a message. "Give us the hybrids, human, and you can live." Marcus didn't reply. Instead, he activated the ship's shield and prepared for evasive moves. The girls inside heard the noise and started shaking. Lyra whispered, "They're coming for us." Zaya clutched her sister's hand tightly. "They always find us." Inside the cockpit, Marcus was calm but focused. His ship was smaller and faster, but not heavily armed. The pirate ship fired a warning shot, shaking Marcus's vessel. "Come on, hold together," Marcus whispered, pulling the ship into a sharp turn between asteroid fields. The girls stumbled as the ship twisted wildly. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. A loud humming sound filled the ship. Marcus looked at the rear sensors. His own engines were suddenly surging with extra power. "What the hell?" he whispered. Then he realized it was coming from the girls, even through the locked doors. Their bioenergy was feeding into the ship's core. In the lounge, Lyra and Zaya were holding each other, eyes closed. Their glowing symbols on the skin brightened. Unknowingly, they were syncing with the ship's systems. The pirate ship couldn't keep up with the sudden burst of speed. Marcus pulled ahead through a narrow asteroid belt. Large rocks smashed into the pirate vessel. Moments later, the pirate ship spun out of control and disappeared from radar. Silence returned. Marcus sat back, breathing hard. That was impossible. He unlocked the door and returned to the girls. They were sitting on the floor, exhausted, breathing heavily. "What did you do?" he asked softly. We don't know," Lyra answered weakly. "It just happens when we're scared." Marcus stared at them, deeply curious now. These girls weren't just hybrids. They were living reactors, highly advanced beings, with abilities unknown to most of the galaxy. Who made them, and why? He knelt beside them. "You saved us." Zaya's voice was soft. "Will they keep chasing us?" Marcus nodded seriously. "Probably." Lyra asked, "Are you going to sell us too?" Marcus shook his head. "Never." The girls both looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. No one had ever said that to them before. "I promise you," Marcus said firmly, "no one will ever own you again." For the first time, a small smile appeared on Zaya's lips. Lyra relaxed slightly, her head resting on her sister's shoulder. Outside, stars continued to pass by silently, but danger was far from over. Far away, in the dark corner of the galaxy. Powerful eyes had already received word of what happened. The Empire would not stay quiet for long. The hidden power. The journey continued through deep space. After the pirate attack, the girls began to trust Marcus a little more, but fear still lived in their hearts. They had been hunted before. They knew what it meant when people called them treasures. It never meant kindness. It meant ownership, chains, and pain. Marcus guided the ship towards a quiet region called the Drift Sector, an area full of ancient ruins and abandoned colonies where few dared to travel. For now, it was the safest place. Inside the ship, Lyra and Zaya slowly started to explore their new surroundings. Marcus made sure they had proper clothes, warm blankets, and enough food. Every day, he spoke to them softly, never forcing questions, but always listening. One day, while Marcus was running scans in the cockpit, the computer beeped. Strange energy readings pulsed inside the ship again. He followed the signals and arrived at the small room where the girls were resting. The door opened silently. Inside, he saw something he had never seen before. Lyra was floating slightly above the ground, her body surrounded by a soft white glow. Her silver hair floated around her like mist. Her eyes were closed, breathing steady. Zaya stood nearby, watching nervously, her hands glowing softly, as if controlling the energy flow. "Lyra," Marcus whispered, stunned. Suddenly, Lyra gently dropped back to the floor, her glow fading. She opened her eyes slowly. Marcus quickly stepped forward. "Are you okay?" he asked. I think so," Lyra whispered. Zaya looked frightened. "We've never done that before." Marcus sat down beside them. "You're learning. Your power is growing." Lyra shook her head. "We don't even know what this is. They tried to teach us before. Horrible men, but only to make us weapons." Marcus's eyes hardened. "You're not weapons." Zaya spoke softly, almost in tears. "Why did they make us like this?" Marcus sighed, searching for the right words. Many beings in this galaxy fear what they do not understand. Some try to control it, but that doesn't make you wrong. It makes them afraid of what you could become. The girls fell silent. Then, Zaya whispered, "We don't want to hurt people." "You won't," Marcus promised. "But you need to learn control. Your powers can protect you. I'll help you." From that day, small training sessions began. Marcus wasn't a scientist, but he had seen many types of technology and powers during his life as an engineer and trader. He set up safe rooms where they could practice without risking damage to the ship. Caya practiced her telepathic abilities. At first, she could only sense Marcus's emotions, but soon, she could hear fragments of his thoughts. Sometimes, she even sensed danger before it arrived. Lyra's abilities were even stranger. She could manipulate energy fields, bend light around her body, and even heal small wounds by touching them. But it drained her strength quickly as days passed. They grew stronger, but trouble was also growing in the dark halls of the Imperial Command Station, high above the capital world of the Galactic Empire. A meeting was taking place. "Confirm it again," the commander said coldly. The officer bowed. "Yes, Lord Var. The human named Marcus has acquired the last 2 hybrids from the Black Auction. Our scout ship tracked him into the drift sector, but lost contact after the pirate ambush." Lord Varkos leaned forward. His reptilian eyes glowed in the dim light. "So, the humans survived, and the girls are still alive." The officer swallowed nervously. "Yes, my lord. Send the hunters," Varkos ordered. "I want those girls alive. Alive, my lord." Varkos smiled cruelly. "Of course. We spent years creating them. They belong to the Empire. No one steals from me." Deep in space, unaware of the coming danger, Marcus and the girls continued their training. One night, while Marcus was reviewing ship logs, Zaya entered the cockpit quietly. "Marcus," she whispered. He turned. "Yes. Can I ask something?" Of course. Zaya hesitated, then said, "Why are you helping us?" "Really?" Marcus smiled sadly. "Because once, long ago, someone saved me when I was worthless too." He paused, then continued. "When I was young, I was captured during a war. I was left for dead. But one woman, a stranger, risked her life to rescue me. She told me that every life matters, even broken ones." Zaya's eyes filled with tears. "So you're like us?" "Not exactly." Marcus smiled, "but I know what it feels like to be thrown away." They sat in silence for a moment. Then the ship's alarms suddenly screamed. "Incoming vessel," the computer warned. Marcus jumped to the controls. The scanners showed a large ship approaching fast, a Hunter-class Imperial vessel, much bigger than the pirates. "They've found us," Marcus whispered. He quickly activated the stealth drive and pulled into a nearby asteroid field, hoping to hide. "Lyra, Zaya, hold on," he shouted. The girls ran into the cockpit as the ship swerved. Between giant floating rocks, the Hunter ship fired scanning beams, searching. Inside, Zaya clutched her head. "They're trying to find us. Can you block them?" Marcus asked. Quickly, "I'll try." Zaya closed her eyes. Sweat appeared on her forehead as she focused hard. The ship shook violently as scanners pressed against them. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. The Hunter's ship drifted forward, but past them, unable to locate their position. "You did it," Marcus whispered. ZCAI collapsed into his arms, exhausted. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The Empire now knew exactly where to search, and they would not stop. The pursuit against Hunter's ship slowly vanished from the radar. Silence returned, but Marcus knew it was only temporary. The Empire would not give up so easily. The small ship drifted inside the asteroid belt, floating between massive spinning rocks. It was risky, but it was the only place they could hide for now. Marcus shut down most of the power systems to avoid any energy signature being detected. Inside, the dim emergency lights glowed softly. The girls sat close together, their faces pale and tense. "They almost found us," Zaya whispered. Marcus knelt beside them. "But they didn't. You were amazing." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes shining faintly. "They'll keep coming, won't they?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, but we won't stop either." Suddenly Zaya clutched her head again. Her breathing quickened. I can feel them. More ships. Many ships. They're searching." Marcus's face hardened. They're deploying a fleet. The Empire was serious. These girls were not just any hybrids. They were likely the last living prototypes of a secret experiment, one that the Empire thought lost. Now, Marcus understood why the auction house tried to get rid of them so quickly. They had become too dangerous to keep, but too valuable to destroy. The girls weren't broken. They were unfinished. Marcus quickly activated a holographic map. We can't stay here. We need to leave the drift sector entirely. He pointed to a small sector far beyond the charted trade routes, a place called Ilaris Void. This area was once home to ancient hybrid civilizations. Nobody goes there anymore because of rumors about deadly defenses and forgotten technology. Lyra whispered, "We heard stories about Ilaris when we were children." "Good," Marcus said. "Maybe those old stories will help us." Zay's hands trembled. But, it's too dangerous. Dangerous for them too, Marcus replied. And that's why it's our best chance. He moved quickly, restarting the ship's systems and setting a new course. But before the engines fully powered up, the ship's sensors screamed again. Contact detected. Fast approach. Marcus cursed under his breath. How did they find us so fast? The girls panicked, but Marcus stayed calm. He activated his backup plan, a small experimental warp drive he had modified over years. It was unstable, but could jump them far beyond enemy reach. "Hold on tight," Marcus shouted. The ship shuddered as the drive powered up, glowing blue with swirling energy. Outside, several Imperial ships appeared at the edge of the asteroid field, firing scanners and preparing to launch interceptors. "Engage now," Marcus shouted. The warp drive roared as the ship vanished into a bright tunnel of light. For a few terrifying moments, everything shook violently. The girls screamed softly, holding each other tightly as sparks flew across the cockpit. Marcus gritted his teeth, holding on to the control panel. Then silence. The ship dropped back into normal space, floating gently. They had made it. The stars outside were different now, darker, older, colder. The Ilaris Void, they were far beyond the Empire's regular patrols. But Marcus knew this was no safe place. The Void was full of forgotten things, ruins of old experiments, broken machines, and mysteries that even the Empire feared. "We're here," Marcus whispered, checking the systems. The ship held together. Zaya looked around nervously. "It feels strange here." "Because this place remembers things," Lyra whispered. The ship's sensors started picking up strange signals. Ancient structures floated silently in the distance. Old space stations covered in vines. Giant statues of unknown creatures, and ruined temples drifting like ghosts in space. "Look at that," Marcus said, pointing to a giant metallic ring. "Structure ahead. That's a hybrid sanctuary." "Long before the Empire, hybrid beings lived here," Zaya whispered. "Do you think we'll find others like us?" "Maybe," Marcus answered softly. "Or at least answers." He carefully navigated the ship toward the ring. But even as they approached, another threat was silently watching. Deep inside the Ilaris Void, hidden among the ancient ruins, a forgotten Imperial outpost activated. It had been sleeping for decades, but was still connected to old Empire protocols. A robotic voice inside the outpost spoke. "Target match detected. Hybrid prototypes Z1 and L2. Initiating recovery protocol." Metallic drones awakened, their eyes glowing red. Inside the ship, Zaya suddenly grabbed her head again. "Something is coming." Marcus checked the radar. Dozens of small signals appeared, fast and closing in. "Defense drones," Marcus shouted. "Everyone strap in." The ship's guns activated automatically. Bright red beams shot toward the incoming drones, but there were too many. "Marcus," Lyra shouted, her eyes glowing. "Let me help." "No," Marcus yelled. "It's too dangerous." But Lyra's body glowed brighter, floating slightly. Off the ground, she spread her arms. Waves of white energy pulsed outward, crashing into the nearest drones and disabling them instantly. Saya joined her, focusing her mind. The drones began to lose coordination, crashing into each other. Marcus watched in awe as the girls, for the first time, fought back together, not as victims, but as protectors. After a few minutes, the battlefield fell silent. The drones drifted, powerless in space. The girls collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily, but safe. Marcus rushed to them. "You're both incredible." "We're tired," Lyra whispered. "Rest now," Marcus said. "You've earned it." He carefully navigated the ship into the center of the ancient ring station and activated the docking sequence. The ship landed gently inside the forgotten sanctuary. For now, they were safe again, but Marcus knew this place would reveal deeper secrets. And somewhere, far away, Lord Varkos received a new report. His cold smile returned. "They think the void will save them," Varkos whispered. "But I will drag them out, even from the shadows." The hidden world's giant metallic ring of the ancient sanctuary stood like a sleeping god in space, untouched for centuries. As Marcus carefully guided the ship into the docking chamber, the old station seemed to awaken, its long-dead systems flickering back to life. Dim lights glowed along the walls. Mechanical arms shifted slightly, as if testing their strength after long rest. Strange glyphs lit up on the floor beneath them, ancient hybrid language Marcus couldn't read. The ship landed with a soft thud. Engines powered down, and silence returned. Inside, the girls sat quietly. They had recovered from the battle with the drones, but exhaustion still painted their faces. "We're here," Marcus said gently. Zaya stared out the window. "This place, it feels alive." Lyra nodded slowly. "It's watching us." Marcus wasn't sure what they meant, but he trusted their senses. Hybrids like them were deeply connected to energy most humans couldn't see. He grabbed his gear, a scanner, a blaster, and a light beacon, and turned toward the girls. "Stay close to me. Don't touch anything unless I say so. Old places like this can still be dangerous." They nodded silently. The airlock hissed open. Warm air rushed in, surprisingly breathable, though it carried a strange metallic scent. As they stepped into the sanctuary, the full size of the place became clear. Towering statues lined the walls, elegant, beautiful beings, part human, part alien, their arms raised as if reaching for the stars. The floor was smooth, covered in glowing lines that pulsed softly with every step they took. Zaya whispered, "This is where they were made." "Who?" Marcus asked. "Others like us," she said. "The first hybrids." Lyra gently touched one of the glowing statues. They didn't want war, but they were made for it. The deeper they walked, the more the station seemed to come alive. Doors opened silently as they approached, lights guided their path, and strange symbols floated through the air, holographic records, speaking in languages long forgotten. Finally, they entered a massive central chamber. In the center stood a tall cylindrical pod filled with liquid. Inside floated a figure, tall, elegant, female, clearly a hybrid, but older than Lyra and Zaya. Her eyes were closed, her body perfectly preserved. "Who is she?" Marcus whispered, before anyone could answer. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, children of the lost bloodline." They spun around. An ancient holographic projection appeared, a tall hybrid male wearing ceremonial armor, his glowing eyes filled with wisdom. "I am Archivist Orith," the projection said. "This sanctuary was built to protect the final creations of Project." Elariza and Zaya trembled. "Project Elariza." The projection nodded. "The Empire once sought to combine the strongest traits of all known species: strength, intelligence, healing, energy manipulation, telepathy. Your kind was born from that ambition," Marcus asked. "Then why were they abandoned? Why were these girls sold as slaves?" The archivist's voice turned sad. "Because the Empire feared what it could not control. Early prototypes, like Lyra and Zaya, displayed emotional bonds, compassion, love, traits the Empire considered weaknesses. Lyra whispered, "They tried to break us, and yet you survived," Orith said. "Proof that you were not failures, but the next evolution." The girls stood in awe, processing the truth of their existence. Then Orith's tone shifted. "But listen carefully. Danger follows you. The Empire never stopped searching. They have sent Varkos, one of the last pure enforcers, to reclaim you." Marcus clenched his fists. "Then we need to prepare. This sanctuary holds weapons and knowledge," Orith said. "But you must prove yourselves worthy." Suddenly, the floor shook. Giant metallic doors opened at the far end, revealing a long corridor filled with ancient guardian machines. The test had begun. "What do we do?" Zaya whispered in fear. Marcus stepped forward. "We stand together." He turned to the girls. "You're not helpless anymore. You've trained. Trust yourselves." The guardians came to life, tall, spider-like machines with glowing cores. They moved fast, sharp limbs slicing the air. Marcus fired his blaster, but the energy bolts bounced off their shields. Lyra raised her hands, generating a barrier of light that blocked an incoming attack. Zaya focused her mind, searching for the guardians' weak points. "Their cores," she shouted, "hit the glowing cores." Marcus rolled aside and fired a precise shot, striking one guardian's core. It collapsed instantly, but more were coming. Lyra focused her energy, sending a pulse wave that stunned several guardians. Zaya reached into their minds, causing confusion, forcing some to attack each other. The battle raged for several intense minutes, but for the first time, the girls fought without fear. They worked together, fluid, powerful, and united. Finally, the last guardian fell. Silence returned, or a th reappeared. "You have passed. You are no longer children. You are heirs." A platform rose from the center of the chamber, revealing ancient hybrid armor light. Flexible, glowing faintly with energy. "These were made for you," Orith said. The girls approached slowly. As they touched the armor, it molded perfectly to their bodies, enhancing their abilities while protecting them. "You are ready now," Orith said. "But remember, Varkos is coming." Marcus placed a hand on their shoulders. "We will face him, together, far away, on his command ship." Varkos received the latest report. "They've reached the Alaris sanctuary," his officer reported. VAR cost single quotes, cold smile widened. "Perfect. Prepare the assault fleet." The final confrontation was drawing closer, and this time there would be no escape. The Empire Strike's stars above the Alaris void grew darker as the Imperial fleet approached. Dozens of massive warships appeared from hyperspace, their enormous shadows swallowing the light around them. At the front of the fleet was the flagship Dominus, shaped like a black spear, its long weapon arrays glowing faintly. Inside the sanctuary, Marcus, Lyra, and Zaya stood before the ancient control platform, their faces calm but their hearts heavy. They had trained, they had grown, but now they were about to face the full fury of the Empire. The holographic projection of Archivist Orith flickered back into view. "Varkos has arrived. The Empire brings its full might." Marcus clenched his jaw. "We expected this." Orith nodded. "Remember, this sanctuary is not only a shelter, it is a fortress built to defend the last of your kind. But the defense requires your command." Lyra and Zaya exchanged a glance. They stepped forward, placing their hands on the ancient control panel. As their hands touched the glowing surface, the entire sanctuary trembled. Deep within its core, ancient defense systems roared back to life. Giant energy shields formed around the ring, and long dormant weapons deployed along its outer rim. Outside, the Empire's fleet stopped at the edge of the void, on the Dominus. Lord Varkos stood at the observation deck, watching the awakening of the sanctuary. His voice was calm, yet filled with arrogance. "How poetic. They think ancient relics will protect them. His officer spoke cautiously. My lord, the sanctuary's defense systems are highly advanced. So are we, Varkos replied coldly. Prepare the first wave. Hundreds of Imperial assault ships launched forward, carrying elite storm troops and advanced battle droids. Their engines glowed bright as they raced toward the sanctuary. Inside, Marcus watched the scanners carefully. Here they come. The girls stood strong beside him, their hybrid armor glowing softly with living energy. Activate external defenses, Marcus ordered. Massive energy beams fired from the sanctuary's outer towers, striking many of the incoming ships. Explosions lit up space like fireworks, but still, many reached the docking arms. The battle had begun. Inside the sanctuary's corridors, metal doors slammed shut as defensive turrets activated. Storm troops breached the outer halls, exchanging fire with ancient defense drones. Controlled by the sanctuary's core, Marcus led Lyra and Zaya to the central command chamber. This is where they'll come for you. Zaya suddenly clutched her head. They're inside. They're coming for us. Lyra's voice turned cold. Then we fight. Marcus drew his blaster. Together. Suddenly, the heavy entrance. Doors burst open as Imperial soldiers stormed in, led by a tall, armored figure, Lord Varkos himself. He was monstrous, standing nearly 7 feet tall, covered in dark silver armor that hummed with power. His eyes glowed red, and long metallic tendrils shifted behind him like living snakes. His voice was like poison. There you are, my lost children. Lyra stepped forward bravely. We are not yours. Oh, but you are, Varkos smiled. You were created by the Empire. You belong to us. Marcus raised his blaster. Not anymore. Without warning, Varkos lashed out. One of his tendrils shot forward like a spear, knocking Marcus's blaster from his hand and slamming him against the wall. Zaya screamed, reaching for Marcus, but another tendril wrapped around her wrist. No more running, Varkos hissed. Lyra, single quotes, his eyes glowed fiercely. Energy crackled around her as she unleashed a massive pulse that shattered the tendril gripping Zaya. The sisters stood side by side, their powers fully awakened. Varkos laughed. Impressive, you've grown. His soldiers opened fire, but the girls raised energy shields, blocking every shot. Marcus groaned, pulling himself back up. Don't let him separate you, he shouted. Stay together. The girls moved as one. Zaya focused her telepathic powers, reaching into the minds of the storm troops, causing confusion and disarray. Several soldiers turned on each other, while others dropped their weapons. Frozen in fear, Lyra charged forward, sending waves of energy blasts at Varkos, forcing him back. But Varkos was not easily beaten. He extended both arms, absorbing Lyra's energy with his armor, converting it into power. You cannot win, he sneered. I am evolution, perfected. Marcus knew this fight couldn't be won with power alone. Zaya, he shouted. Disrupt his mind. Look for weakness. Zaya closed her eyes, digging deep into Varkos's mind. What she found was horrifying pain, rage, loneliness. Varkos was once like them, an early experiment who had been twisted and reshaped by the Empire into a loyal monster. Tears filled her eyes. You were like us once. For a brief second, Varkos hesitated. A flicker of his old self trembled beneath the armor. Lyra seized the moment, launching a focused beam directly into his chest plate. Cracking it open, Marcus grabbed his fallen blaster and fired into the crack. The shot pierced through, striking the energy core inside Varkos's chest. The armored giant stumbled backward, sparks flying. His voice grew weaker. You should have obeyed. Zaya stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. We choose who we are. With one final surge of combined power, the sisters unleashed a blinding energy wave that engulfed Varkos completely. The armored body collapsed, smoking and lifeless. Silence returned to the chamber. The remaining Imperial troops fled in panic. Without Varkos, their command structure collapsed. Outside, the Imperial fleet withdrew, retreating into hyperspace. The battle was over. Marcus fell to his knees, breathing heavily. The girls rushed to him, hugging him tightly. They were safe, truly safe, for the first time in their lives. Orith's hologram reappeared. You have done what none before you could. The Empire has been driven back. This sanctuary is yours now, Zaya whispered. What happens now? New beginning, Orith said. This sanctuary can be rebuilt as a home for all hybrids. You are no longer hunted. You are free. Lyra smiled, tears falling down her cheeks. Thank you, Marcus. He hugged them both. No, thank you, for showing me what real strength means. Together, they stepped into the central chamber, watching as the ancient systems fully awakened, signaling the rebirth of a forgotten world. But even now, far across the stars, whispers of their victory began to spread, and somewhere, others like them lost hybrids. Hidden survivors began to hope again. Treasures of humanity weeks passed since the great battle inside the sanctuary. The ruins were slowly transforming. What was once a dead relic of a forgotten age was now full of life and purpose again. Marcus, Lyra, and Zaya worked together with the remaining ancient systems to repair and rebuild the sanctuary. The scars of war still remained, but the atmosphere had changed. This place was no longer a prison. It was becoming a home. New lights glowed softly along the grand halls. The statues of the ancient hybrids stood tall, no longer as a reminder of failure, but of hope, yet far beyond, across the galaxy. Whispers of what had happened in Elaris Void spread like wildfire. The story of two hybrid girls, rescued by a single human, defeating an Imperial Lord, and reclaiming the ancient sanctuary, reached every corner of space. For some, it was a tale of rebellion. For others, it was a symbol of freedom, and for those who still served, the Empire was a warning. Inside the sanctuary, Marcus sat at a large circular table with Lyra and Zaya. They reviewed data streams from distant systems. More hybrids are starting to come out of hiding, Zaya said softly. Lyra nodded. They're asking if this place is real, if they can come. Marcus smiled gently. They can. This is their home now. He knew the sanctuary could protect many more. For too long, the hybrids had been hunted, used, or discarded like broken tools. But now, they had a place to call their own. But not everyone welcomed this change. One night, as the sanctuary powered down for rest cycles, Zaya woke suddenly. She sat up in bed, breathing fast. Her mind was flooded with visions, brief flashes of ships gathering, of secret meetings in the Empire's dark chambers. She rushed to Marcus's quarters. They're coming, she whispered breathlessly. A secret council, a new force, not the Empire, but worse. Marcus stood up immediately. Who? Mercenaries, warlords, ex-Imperial commanders. They've formed something new. They call it the Black Covenant. Marcus narrowed his eyes. They want this place too. Lyra entered the room, sensing the tension. We'll defend it. But Marcus shook his head. This time, we need more than just defense. We need allies. The next few days, messages were sent across the stars. To the outer colonies, 2 rogue traders, 2 old rebel cells, and most importantly to the scattered hybrids who had survived, in secret for years. One by one, they arrived. The sanctuary's docking bays filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. Hybrids of different forms stepped out, some young, some old, many afraid, but all carrying the same hope in their eyes. Marcus stood with Lyra and Zaya as they welcomed each new arrival. A tall, hybrid woman approached with twin horns curling around her head. She spoke softly. We thought we were alone. Lyra smiled warmly. You're not alone anymore. Day by day, their numbers grew. The sanctuary became alive with laughter, training, rebuilding, and planning. But as hope grew, so did the danger. On the edge of the void, the Black Covenant finally arrived. Massive warships blocked out the stars. Unlike the Empire's clean, cold ships, these vessels were brutal, covered in scars, spikes, and crude weapons. Leading them was Grand Captain Selrak, a former Imperial general turned warlord. In his war room, Selrak sneered at the sanctuaries. "Growing strength, let the little hybrids gather," he growled. "Soon, we'll harvest them all." His fleet moved in slowly, surrounding the void. Inside the sanctuary, Marcus stood before a gathered crowd: hybrids, rebels, traitors, former slaves, all now united. "They want to take everything from you." "Again," Marcus said, his voice strong. "But this time, we fight as one, not for power, not for control, but for the right to exist, for freedom." The crowd roared in agreement. Lyra and Zaya stood beside him, glowing in their full hybrid armor, not as weak girls anymore, but as leaders of a new people. The battle began. The Covenant launched wave after wave of brutal attacks. But this time, the sanctuary was not alone. Trained hybrid warriors unleashed their powers, forming defensive formations with glowing shields. Rebel ships intercepted enemy squadrons, forcing the Covenant to spread thin. Inside, Zaya used her telepathy to coordinate defenses. Sensing attacks before they happened, Lyra led strike teams, using her energy manipulation to disable enemy boarding parties. Marcus moved between control rooms, directing the ancient defense systems, alongside Orith's holographic guidance. The Black Covenant was stronger, more vicious, but they lacked unity. The sanctuary's defenders fought not for conquest, but for each other. After hours of intense battle, Selrak grew frustrated. "Bring my ship forward," he barked. "I will break their leaders myself." His dreadnought moved into the sanctuary's inner orbit, launching a massive energy cannon charged to destroy the central core. Inside, Orith warned, "Impact in 30 seconds. We won't survive a direct hit." Marcus shouted, "Zaya!" Single quotes. Eyes narrowed. "We stop him now." Together, Lyra and Zaya floated into the main energy chamber, connecting directly to the sanctuary's power grid. Their combined energy surged into the ancient systems. Massive energy wings formed around the sanctuary, absorbing the incoming blast, redirecting it back toward Selrak's dreadnought. The energy beam struck the Covenant flagship, tearing it apart. In a brilliant explosion, the remaining Covenant fleet broke apart, fleeing into the void. The battle was over. This time, truly over. The sanctuary stood victorious. In the following weeks, hybrids from across the galaxy arrived in greater numbers. What started with 2 broken girls became a beacon of hope for thousands. The sanctuary grew into a thriving city, not hidden, but open to all who sought peace. One morning, as Marcus watched the sunrise over the sanctuary's new gardens, Lyra and Zaya approached him. "You saved us," Lyra said softly. Marcus smiled. "No, you saved yourselves," Zaya added, with a tearful smile. "You gave us a chance to become who we were meant to be." Marcus stood between them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "You were called useless," he said, "but you became treasures. Not just to me, but to everyone." Above them, the ancient statues stood tall, shining under the twin suns. No longer silent witnesses to failure, but guardians of a future built on courage, love, and freedom. The galaxy had changed, and their story was only beginning.